Hello friends, good afternoon and welcome to Research Live Lectures. Dear friends, as you know, we have started a series of philosophy of mind and philosophy, and today we are conducting yet another lecture in the same series. In today's lecture as well, we will be continuing with the previous topic of externalist and internalist accounts of mental state. It will be part 2 of the same topic. To discuss this topic, we have with us our subject expert, Dr. Ajay Verma. Dr. Verma is Associate Professor in Center for Philosophy, School of Social Sciences, JNU. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Sir to our studios and request him to start the lecture. Welcome, Sir.
Thank you. Hello, viewers. So, you're already aware we have been talking about different issues in philosophy of mind in this series. And in that connection, in our last discussion, we talked about the nature of mental states. So now to do a recapitulation, of discussion so far, let's remember that whenever we talk about philosophy of mind and whenever we talk about knowledge as such, it has these three. It's like this three-cornered equation. On the one hand, knowledge is always of something, in the sense that whenever we talk about knowing something, it has some kind of content, and whenever we talk about questions regarding the truth or falsity, the veracity of our claims, then the question about the object of knowledge invariably comes into picture. So, though knowledge, of course, has something very intimately, is something that is very intimately connected with our minds, because we know through cognitive processes, and these cognitive processes involve our senses, involve our sense organs, and involve our mental operations of some kind in some way, and then a judgment becomes possible. Judgment, more often than not, does have a proper content. Yesterday, in our last discussion, we talked about it in some detail. There could be, at times we don't form judgments, but we simply have some kind of, direct first order feelings. So somebody could be in pain, somebody could be in bad mood, somebody could be in elated mood, and these are so to speak not judgments about the world. These are simply, so to speak, states of mind, which do not, it seems to us, which do not seem to refer to anything outside of themselves. So, but the point that we are trying to understand here is that whenever we are, if we approach if we look at the issue from the point of view of epistemology, then the problem somewhat presents itself like this. Whenever we talk about the knowledge of something, it means that it has some kind of a content, and when we talk about the content of knowledge, then invariably, except maybe in cases of feelings, in cases of moods and things like that, accepting those cases, probably we'll have to take into account the external world, in the sense the aboutness of those knowledge claims. So what are those knowledge claims about? What is being stated in that knowledge claim? So knowing happens. Knowing is always about something. Knowing that, and so on and so forth. Though, of course, if we start talking about knowing how, that would set our discussion adrift in a different direction. But most of the time, our mental states have these claims. These claims often require us to go beyond those because beyond the sort of those knowledge claims, for the purpose of veracity, in order to ascertain the truth of the claim, and that requires taking into account something external to the knowledge claim, something that is not intrinsically a part of the knowledge claim, that requires us to have a glimpse, so to speak, of the outside world, that requires us to account for some kind of external world which is independent of that knowledge claim and the content of knowledge, but which is at the same time determinant of those knowledge claims. So if I claim to know that grass is green, if I know to if I claim to see that grass is green, then in a certain way my claim and the mental state associated with it has a lot to do with the actual greenness of the grass. So my mental state would be complete in a certain way if the grass is actually green. So it is, since it's about the grass as being green, so therefore it always comes along with this aboutness about itself, which refers to something outside of itself, and we need to take into account the factual, the claim being made here, and vis-a-vis the actual state of affairs of the world, we could decide about the veracity, about the truth or the falsity of the claim being made. So in a certain way, no knowledge propositions involve something outside of themselves, and in that sense they are always relational. They cannot be, they have a very different kind of a character, in comparison to some of the other states of mind, like being in pain, like being happy, like being in a certain kind of mood. So, which do not necessarily require looking at something outside of themselves. As a matter of fact, the question of the veracity also doesn't arise, because we cannot really ask a person if if somebody claims that, well, I am happy, I know I am happy. Being happy basically involves that you know that you're happy. It cannot be the case that you are happy but you don't know it. That sounds absurd, nonsensical, implausible. So therefore, these kind of mental states, come as if always present themselves along with their veracity, such that the question of veracity, as a matter of fact, sounds nonsensical about them. So if we are happy, then the happiness comes along with this experience, comes along with this consciousness, comes along, with the claim that I know that I am happy. Second thing is, it will be nonsensical to ask the question, do you really know that you're happy? Rather, to claim, to ask somebody, are you truly happy? Are you absolutely sure that you are happy? Maybe it's the case that you're not happy. So the question of truth or falsity of such claims does not even arise. My being happy, does not, require, something. It doesn't necessarily refer to something outside of itself, vis-a-vis which its veracity, its truth, or its falsity could be ascertained. So therefore, that kind of externality, about it is missing. So, say for example, if there's a knowledge claim like there is a snake over there. So in that case, to ascertain the truth of the statement, we have to go outside of this knowledge proposition. And have to actually look at the object, and that will ascertain about the object whether it is whether actually it actually is the case. And if it actually is the case, then our knowledge claim is true. As a matter of fact, there's this whole discussion in philosophy also about this. This is called the question of pramanyata, the question of veracity, the question of justification in a certain way. So there are some schools of thought in philosophy which, according to which knowledge claims come along with their veracity. So they are self-verified. So there's this take on the issue is called swapramanyata, swata pramanyata, meaning being true in virtue of being a knowledge claim, in virtue of what they are. So it's a very nature of knowledge that it's true. So in that case, the very distinction, as a matter of fact, between knowledge claim and knowledge in fact, in a certain way, would stop making sense, because it would make sense only if we are ascertaining the truth of a knowledge claim vis-a-vis something external to it. So if that's not the case, if we are not doing that, then in a certain way, the very distinction between knowledge claim, knowledge, and fact is in a certain way given up. So in Sutta Pramanyata, in Sutta Pramanyavad, the idea is that knowledge comes along with its truth. Knowledge comes along with its veracity, and it is supposed to be especially true in the context of scriptural authority. So scriptural authority, in a certain way, whatever is written in the scriptures, cannot have some kind of shouldn't be put under the test of some kind of external check about its veracity. So its truth is something internal to it, something that's kind of built into it, because the very fact of their source is Vedic authority. So therefore they are knowledge claims. By knowledge claims we basically mean knowledge claims as stated in the scriptures. They are true by their very nature. So So the truth is not something extrinsic to it. So we do not need to go outside of themselves to decide their truth value and so on and so forth. So in a certain way, these knowledge propositions, these sort of knowledge claims, knowledge propositions would be self-enclosed, would be self-complete. And would in a certain way be also in a certain way sort of, since they come along with their truth, so they they do not in a certain way for their any truth for their veracity do not point towards anything outside of themselves. Whereas in the other kind of justification, which is called Prata Pramanyavad, we require to verify our knowledge claims vis-a-vis the actual state of affairs. So if our knowledge claims are in conformity with what actually is the case. So if I state that there is a snake out there, then we need to actually make a check whether there is actually a snake out there. And if it happens to be the case, then I could reasonably say that I know that there is a snake there, or in other terms, my knowledge claim, my belief that there is a snake over there is true. And since there is justification for it, the truth value has been verified, and I believe it. Therefore, it becomes a piece of knowledge. So in Pratava Pramanyavad, knowledge, comes along as a package, truth of which is driven, is drawn from the, vis-a-vis the state of affairs outside of what the knowledge claim is about. Now, so but this is only only two coordinates of the equation. The third coordinate is that knowledge has something to do with mind also. So, since we know the knowledge happens in some way in our mind, so and my mind also has this physical counterpart called brain. So therefore, knowledge needs to be accounted for in some kind of mental terms as well. So knowledge, in a certain way, would be some kind of mental state. Though when we say that, we are not claiming that all mental states are about knowing something. Mental states there could be a variety of mental states. And we have already talked about it. So which includes pain, pleasure, and moods, and a whole lot of range of mental states, hallucinations, and so on and so forth. So now, there are these, so to speak, three coordinates. And in all our earlier lectures, and whenever we look at some of the other theories, they were focusing more on these two coordinates of the equation, namely mental states, or knowledge episodes as mental states, as something happening inside the mind, as a knowledge episode, as a mental episode, and then the corresponding brain states. So how do we explain that in terms of pure physicality, in terms of the physicality of the mind, which is its brain counterpart? Brain further means some kind of conglomeration of neurons, and they're coming together and forming a particular state, which is tantamount to some kind of knowledge, and which so most of the other theories, starting from behaviorism, identity theory, functionalism, and so on and so forth, most of these theories basically want to focus on the relationship between knowledge as mental episodes and how they correspond with their inner physical counterpart, namely brain. And we saw the kind of problems that arise, and how they are sought to be accounted for. How different philosophers try to find an answer to certain questions that are raised about them. But when we talk about mental states, when we want to examine their nature, we slightly shift our attention from the problem regarding knowing or knowledge being mental episodes and how they relate to the physical counterpart inside us, namely brain. So we don't want to examine the mental state and brain state and the correlation between the two of them in the same precise way as we want to do that, say for example in identity theory. So here the focus basically shifts on what is necessary. What is necessary for, what are necessary features, so to speak, of a mental state? What does it take for a mental state to count as one? So in that case, there could be, we could as we sort of try to approach this issue from the point of view of phenomenology in our last discussion. So phenomenology, in a certain way, tries to provide an answer to it when we discount, because since our knowledge episodes are always about something, they are always intended towards something. When we know, then we know something to be the case. So that brings in the some kind of externality into the picture, into the equation. But then phenomenologist gets around it by stating that the externality is also given to us as a part of our phenomenal experience. So it's a part of the phenomenally given. to us. So therefore, the whole issue of externality of things is kind of given away, is discounted, because all we have before us is this first-person account of things. And the first-person account of things, directs our consciousness towards the phenomenal appearance of things, phenomenal experience of things, a phenomena as such. And the question, so therefore the equation sort of takes a very different form, where we talk about consciousness, which is always intentional in nature and it's intended towards phenomenal experience, and the entire idea of the external world, what Husserl would call natural attitude, is discounted. Because it doesn't seem to be necessary for us to have a phenomenological account of things. So this is one way of looking at what could be called mental content. So one idea is that mental content, mental states which have some kind of mental content, that mental content is defined by what this mental content is about. So if the mental content, say for example, is about green grass, then in a certain way it is dependent upon the grass being green. In a certain way, we wouldn't be wrong if we say that this mental content has been determined by the fact that grass is green. So that would mean that mental content are given, are in a certain way given before us, but they are not completely given, in the sense that their determinant factors are external to them, are outside of them. So that would mean mental states, and mental content is not something that could account entirely for itself in its own terms. So in a certain way, we'll have to say that since mental content, is always mental states, and knowledge being one such mental state, is always about something. So that object which it is about is a determinant factor in that knowledge claim, which is, in a certain way, a mental episode, and therefore is a mental state, and therefore, in turn, it has to be a part of the mental content as well. So the problem that arises here is, in a certain way, like a phenomenologist suggests to us, there seems to be some kind of virtue in saying that mental states are are of the nature of phenomena. They are like phenomenal experience. They have a first person, they have to have a first person account of what they are, because they arise, they evolve, they originate at all only in relation to intentionality of the consciousness. So that way, you'll have to say that the mental content, if it has anything to do with other than itself, then that something is the consciousness, the knowing subject, or the mind, itself. It does not have so mental content, in that case, would not have to do with anything other than the mind. And in that case, it'll be a kind of closed equation, which would have, only these two coordinates, namely consciousness or mind, and and the mental state as such, along with this mental content. So this is depending on whether we want to account for mental states and the mental content in terms of what they are about, in terms of what they refer to, in terms of the determinant factors, and if we believe that those determinant factors which determine the mental content and the knowledge as a mental episode. If we believe that they are they mental states always come along with this reference to them, and these mental states or mental content is determined by them, then we are saying that mental states in a certain way constituted by them, since they are determined by states outside of themselves. So mental states, if they are determined by something outside of themselves, if they are constituted by something outside of themselves, then that presents a very different kind of equation before us, where we will have to take where the actual state of affairs in the world, the external world, would be one of the factors, would be one of the variables in the equation. And the value of that would determine the value or the nature of our mental states and our mental content. So depending on that, there are two takes on the issue. The externalists believe that mental states are always about something. They always refer to something outside of themselves. They have a reference, and so far as that is the case, our mental content is determined by something outside of themselves, and that and when we say that it's determined by something outside of itself, that means it's dependent upon something outside of itself. And when we say it's dependent on something outside of itself, in a certain way we are saying it's also constituted by factors which also include things outside of it. So this is what we could broadly think of as externalist account of mental content and mental states, whereas the internalist account wants to focus purely on two other coordinates of the equation, namely the mental states themselves. And since if at all they have to do with anything, then that something is mind, because it's only mind which engages with phenomenal experience, and for phenomenal experience, any kind of externality could be discounted, because that externality is the very part of the given phenomenal experience. Therefore, this equation that internalist posits does not require any coordinate on the part of the external world. So the equation looks complete here with just two coordinates, namely mental states, mental content, and the counterpart in consciousness, where that knowledge belongs, the person who knows, the person who has those phenomenal experiences, so to speak. Now, the question is that both these issues, have their own strengths and their own weaknesses. Say, for example, the internalist account, would, in a certain way, just as pointed out in the case of Satapramanyavad, in Indian philosophy, the entire idea of truth, veracity, ascertaining the truth of the matter, doubt, being in doubt, and knowing something as such. So, say for example, in Nyaya philosophy, the doubt or sanshaya is taken as a different kind of mental state, and knowledge is taken as a different kind of mental state. error is supposed to be a very different kind of mental states, and they could be different mental states because they are differently determined by the other variables, some of which are variables existing in the external world, which determine the content of the knowledge proposition, and which are important from the point of view of veracity, ascertaining the truth of it. So these questions are regarding these epistemological questions regarding veracity, truth, falsity, and so on and so forth do not occupy an important place, a due place in phenomenal account, in the internalist account of the mental states. So now we will talk about the different arguments offered by externalists and internalists on this issue. We'll continue with our discussion. We'll return after a short break. Thank you. Welcome back, viewers. So we were talking about the externalist and internalist accounts of mental states, and there we saw what exactly do we mean when we talk about the internalist, what do we mean when we say, when we talk about the internalist account of mental state, and what do we mean when we talk about externalist, take on the issue. So now, having talked about that, let's look at some of the arguments that are offered by these two different camps. Now, from the point of view of externalists, there are these two famous arguments. One of them presented by Hilary Putnam, though in a different context. That is, in the context of philosophy of language, where the idea is, where the question is, whether the knowledge claims, the language, made in language, would really require some kind of, semantical account of it in terms of, external factors. But this argument holds as a good account as a good argument in favor of externalism, also in philosophy of mind. Now, to look at that argument, we will have to engage ourselves with thought experiments, like we often do in philosophy of mind. So, in here, Hilary Putnam, in his thought experiment called Twin Earth thought experiment. In this thought experiment, he wants us to imagine that in some part of the universe there is a twin planet, of Earth, which has exactly the same things, which is an exact replica of Earth, except for the fact that it is exactly replica also in the sense that it has twins of everyone existing on this earth. So when I'm talking about myself, then when I talk about twin earth, there is my exact replica, twin of mine on that twin earth as well. But in the world, there is one difference between these two these two earths, actual earth and twin earth, namely that on this earth, water, whenever I talk about water, I talk about something that has a chemical composition defined by two atoms of hydrogen combined with one atom of oxygen. So water here refers to something with a certain kind of chemical composition, with a certain kind of intrinsic composition, namely H2O. But on twin earth, even though I have exactly the same belief, exactly the same term, exactly the same word for something called water, and also that water has the very same properties, the very same, especially it functions the same way. When I feel thirsty here, I ask for water. There also, when I'm thirsty, I ask for twin water, that is whatever is water there. But the water there differs from water here in one important aspect, that when we look at it close enough, when we look at it under a powerful microscope, we find that its chemical composition is different from the chemical composition of water on Earth. So probably chemical composition of twin water on twin earth is XYZ. So there, when I say water, then I'm sort of, and then it conjures up some kind of mental state in me, the mental content of which is referring to on twin earth something whose composition, the composition of which is XYZ. Whereas when I think of water here on this earth, then it conjures up a mental state in me, the content of which refers to the water here, the composition of which is H2O. So now, if we look at purely in terms of mental states, then for all practical purposes, these two different mental states are same in every respect. So intrinsically, they are just the same. So when I talk of water, say for example on twin earth, I also believe that it will quench my thirst. Whenever I feel thirsty, the immediate thought that comes to my mind is that if I drink water, then my thirst would be quenched. And I believe that the thing out there in the glass which is going to quench my thirst is actually water. So from that point of view, from the if we look at it in terms of the intrinsic nature of that mental states, it's completely sort of self-defined, and there are no external factors that go that seem to go into the making of it. But when we look at its aboutness, then we will find that these are two different mental states, because on twin earth, the mental state about water is determined by a substance whose composition is XYZ. So the mental state of water on twin earth is of a different kind, because the water there has a different composition. Therefore, it's differently determined in a certain way. And the mental state which belongs to my thinking of water, my believing that there is water in the glass, involves water which is of a different kind, which has a different composition, and therefore is determined by a very different kind of water, and therefore, so far as that is the case, we have a reason to believe that the mental state and its content regarding water on twin earth is different from the mental state that I am in and its mental content about water on this planet Earth. So that way, so far as these two mental states are about water, which are different types of water in terms of their chemical composition, these are two different mental states and their mental content is different. So through this experiment, through this thought experiment, Hilary Putnam tries to prove that factors outside of the knowledge proposition, factors outside of the mental state that corresponds to a certain kind of knowledge episode, the content of that mental state are dependent upon what kind of water they are referring to. And so far as that is the case, the mental state on twin earth about water and the mental state on about water on the actual earth would be two different mental states, and therefore it sort of we have a reason to believe that Hilary Putnam gives us a strong reason to believe that that there is some kind of externalism involved when we are talking about mental content, because they are externally determined, and so far as that is the case, there is no denying to the fact that mental states are externally determined. So this is one argument in favor of externalism, but there is another argument which is even simpler, given by a philosopher named Tyler Burge. Now, Tyler Burge, instead of talking about what is known as semantic externalism, which is associated with Hilary Putnam, the argument offered by Tyler Burge, is much more simpler. He talks about the meaning of things, meaning of terms vis-a-vis, and of course, when we're talking about philosophy of mind, we want to take into consideration the mental states concomitant with those knowledge propositions. So, according to Tyler Burge, when we are making a claim, when we make a knowledge claim, then in a certain way the meaning involved in that knowledge claim is in part determined by the speech community, how that word is used in a particular speech community. So in a certain way, this is something that Wittgenstein says in a very different way, in a very different context when he talks about language games. But the broad idea here is that the meaning of terms is also, apart from other things, and dominantly in a certain sense, is a function of speech community, the community which uses a particular language. So Tyler Burge, offers us an example. So, say for example, a person X. Say for example, there is this lady Shahana, and whenever. And Shahana has been suffering from arthritis for some time, and she often has pain in her joints and so on and so forth. But one day, what happens is that she also starts feeling pain in her thigh. And then she approaches the doctor and says that now my arthritis, my problem of arthritis now has spread over to the thigh as well. Earlier it was only in the knees, but now it has spread over to her thigh as well. Now here the doctor is very likely to tell her that arthritis, that she is using the term arthritis in an incorrect way. As a matter of fact, arthritis is a disease which is caused by a certain kind of swelling in joints, and therefore it is a disease which has only to do, which has something to do, which only pertains to the joints in the body. And since thigh has no joints, therefore one can have pain, but that pain cannot be due to arthritis. So therefore, when Shahana says that my arthritis pain has now spread over to my thigh, then Shahana needs to be told that her belief is incorrect. That there's something wrong with like the content of her knowledge and the content and which is also mental content. So then she's told that arthritis is something that does not happen in thighs. But now suppose there is another community where the term arthritis, the use of it includes also the pain in thighs. So it's a different kind of speech community, and there the term arthritis is used in a different way. And there when Shahana says that she has pain in her thighs, it makes some kind of legitimate sense, because the term arthritis there refers to something broader. So maybe it could refer to any pain in the lower part of the body. Maybe any pain anywhere on the leg is defined is termed as arthritis. So there in that speech community, when she believes that she has arthritis, in her thigh, she claims to know that she has arthritis in her thigh, then she is right about it. Then she actually, then her knowledge actually refers to in a certain way refers to some kind of some kind of factual state of affairs. So now the truth of what she's saying, what she knows, and the mental content of that thought, belief being a kind of thought. And the mental, content of that thought has something to do with how that particular term is used in a particular community. So, our knowing whether we have, a certain kind of pain or not, and the constituent factors of the mental state, the mental content associated with that belief, with that knowledge proposition, with that knowledge instance, they go in a certain way together. So, our sort of mental content in those knowledge episodes would be determined by whether we are using a word correctly or not. Whether we actually whether we actually know that we have arthritis or not in this present example. So here also in this example, we see that our beliefs are sort of knowledge episodes, which also involve some kind of mental content. are determined, are sort of are have speech community and the use of the word as some of the determining factors that go on into the constitution, that go into the making, so to speak, of what that mental state is, or that goes into the making of the mental content corresponding to a particular mental state. So far as that being the case, some kind of externalism seems to be inevitable and ineluctable whenever we talk about mental content. So these are two strong arguments that we come across from the externalist point of view. Both these arguments seem to provide us ample reason to believe that mental states are externally determined, and therefore they vary according to what they are about. They vary according to what the claim is about. They vary according to the object of the knowledge object of belief, or similar kind of mental episodes. So this is these are some of the accounts of externalist arguments on the issue of mental states. But then internalists do have certain reasons to hold the ground, because we on a closer examination we will find that there are certain reasons, there are certain issues, there are certain problems with these externalist account of mental state, and in order to examine that, we'll have to look at some of the implications of externalism when we talk about mental states. Now, when we talk about mental states, like if we look at the externalist account, it seems counterintuitive, because in a certain way all the mental episodes pertaining to knowledge, beliefs, desires, and so on and so forth, they are owned by me. They are in a certain way first person account, and in that sense they are almost at par with, so in that sense, knowledge episodes, so far as they have a mental content, and so far as that mental content is owned by a conscious subject, by a mind, so to speak. From that point of view, for all practical purposes, they are at par with some other kind of mental episodes, with some other kind of mental states like happiness, pain, and so on and so forth. Now, just like the question that I don't know that I am happy does not even arise. There being happiness in my mind means I am conscious of that. Whereas the externalist account seems to provide some space for saying that that mental states are in a certain way independent of the knowing subject. So in order to understand it better, now let's sort of give a slight twist to this twin earth experiment. Now, suppose that we have a very sort of a high velocity kind of a spaceship, and we can travel on an everyday basis from Earth to twin Earth. And suppose somebody does so much of traveling across these planets that on certain occasion it could be very likely that you forget which planet you are on, whether you are on Earth or whether you are on twin Earth. So in that case, you may have you may feel thirsty, and you may have certain kind of mental state involving water, but you don't know which mental state it is, because you don't know which planet you are on, and therefore you don't know which water your mental state refers to. So you have a mental state referring to water, but since you are clueless about which planet it is, therefore you are clueless about which water you are thinking about, therefore you don't know which water you are thinking about. So now this seems in a certain way, not only counterintuitive, it seems contradictory in a certain way. Not exact logical contradiction, but it doesn't seem to make much sense to us that I know that I'm talking about water, but since chemical compositions could be different and they are they are determinant factors of my mental states, so actually I don't know I don't know that I'm thinking about water in a certain way. So my belief about water is incomplete, and therefore it's not a belief about water in a certain sense. So in a certain sense, I don't even know what I'm thinking, because here I don't know which water I'm thinking about. So that would mean I don't know what I'm thinking, which does not seem to make sense. When I say I'm thinking in a certain Cartesian way, there is some kind of indubitability about it. There's some kind of almost some kind of immanence about it. It comes along with some kind of immanent truth about it. So so that way it seems highly nonsensical to us that I may think something, but I don't know what I'm thinking about. And so far as that is the case, there is internalists have a point. And there seems to be and externalists account involves something. It seems to lead to some kind of counterintuitive conclusion, some kind of contradiction, which allows for the possibility of my not knowing what I think, which is strange. Second thing, problem about the externalist account, comes from the point of view of causation. So in a certain way, there was this theory that when we know certain object, it also involves some kind of impact, from the part of the object upon our mind, which makes the knowledge to happen. So almost like some kind of corpuscles, which emanate forth from the object of the knowledge, and it kind of impinges upon us, and since it impinges upon us, then it sets in motion certain spirits in us, and knowledge seems to happen. So Descartes, among others, had this kind of a view. So there is some kind of causation involved here. But we also know that when we are talking about something, there are certain properties which are more definitive of what that thing is in terms of what that thing causes in turn, and there are certain other properties which are non-essential. So say, for example, when we hit a mirror with a stone, the color of the stone is irrelevant, whether it's held by a woman or a man is irrelevant. A whole lot of other relational properties are irrelevant so far as this causal effect is concerned. So in that context, all that matters is its intrinsic properties, namely its solidity, the fact that it's not liquid, and so on and so forth. And all the relational properties are irrelevant, are practically irrelevant for the purpose of trying to understand the breaking of the mirror in terms of causation. Similarly, if cognition is viewed as in terms of some kind of cognition, some kind of cause and effect. And since, externalist account of mental state, thinks of mental states only in terms of relational properties, as have, in terms of its relational properties. Therefore, since relational properties are irrelevant for all causal purposes, the same could be said about the externalist take on the issue. So as the causes of certain cognitions to happen, these relational properties probably could be discounted. So this is another kind of minor objection that one could place against the externalist account of things. So friends, in this lecture we learnt about what we mean by externalist and internalist takes on the issue regarding mental states, and the different arguments and counter arguments that come from these two different camps. Thank you.
Dear friends, due to paucity of time, we have to stop our lecture here. On that note, we would like to thank Dr. Verma for coming here and delivering this wonderful lecture. And thank you, dear friends, for watching our lecture. Stay tuned and keep watching. Thank you.